So sometimes the things we say we value don't fully line up with our actions and our behaviors. And it's good to notice this so that we can then come into congruence, come into alignment with ourselves. And I've noticed this before with, for example, connection. I've been like, this is a top value, but I wasn't actually prioritizing connection in my life. I was prioritizing work or prioritizing alone time. When I noticed, I could bring awareness to this and then actually question, like, is this a core value? If yes, then how can I make this more of a priority in my life? How can my actions align to what I am telling myself, what I am saying? And today I want to talk a little bit about the value of growth and avoiding triggers. So I noticed, growth is one of my top values. And it can be so good to do this exercise, listing your top 5 values and then going through your life, your business, your workplace, your relationships, your health, well-being, spirituality. Like, are you bringing in these top values into your life? It can be super helpful exercise, especially if you are blocked energetically or feeling blocked or stuck. This can be a useful exercise because wherever we're out of alignment with ourselves, we're blocking energy, we're blocking that flow. So to dive into today's topic of growth and triggers. So I noticed, growth is a top value of mine. I love growth. It's definitely a priority. And there was some moments where I was realizing I was avoiding my triggers, especially after COVID. It got so easy. We all got used to staying inside. And so that was kind of my go-to. If I would get triggered in a situation or a place or out with a friendship or relationship, my go-to was to then avoid the triggers. Just stay in a little bit more because that was comfortable. That was easy. And then I realized, this is me avoiding growth. The very thing that I say is one of my most top important values. By avoiding my triggers, I'm avoiding growth because we grow through our triggers. Our triggers show us parts of ourselves that we have not healed yet, parts of ourselves we judge, parts of ourselves where we're ready to do some deeper healing to dive in. So if you're getting triggered in a friendship, it can be you're judging someone. It can be a mirror to you of parts of yourself you're judging. If you're feeling socially anxious, that's a mirror to show you that you are not accepting yourself. If it's hard for you to speak your truth, well, that's an opportunity for growth, an opportunity to lean in to speaking your truth. So by avoiding the triggers, I had to catch myself and be like, ooh, say growth as a priority. And here I am avoiding the very thing that leads us into growth. Growth is not just about doing the courses, reading the books, all of that stuff. Growth is really where the rubber hits the road in our own lives, where we're getting stuck, where we're getting triggered, where our shit is coming up. Can you then apply the things you're learning in the books, the things you're learning in the courses to your life? And it's very easy to see other people, when we're learning something about a course, this person is doing that thing. I can see this person's doing that. And it's a lot harder. The real beauty of growth is when we look and where am I doing that? How can I incorporate and integrate? And it's not about doing it perfectly. If growth edges setting boundaries, it's going to be a little awkward at first. And you might say it a little clunky. But the more we lean in to our growth edges, to our triggers, to where we're getting stuck and blocked, and we do it and we practice. We get better and we get better and we get better. And that is the evolution. And, so if you're like me and growth is a priority, growth is a top value of yours, where are you avoiding leaning into the uncomfortable situations, the triggers, having a difficult conversation in a friendship? Like, all of these things are how we embody growth, how we embody what we're learning. And having a growth mindset is so much more easeful when we can be kind to ourselves. So for me, I noticed that when I was stuck in this inner critic of judging myself, every time I got it wrong, I set a boundary and maybe offended someone, or if I spoke my truth, but I could have done it a little bit better, or if I felt awkward, all these things. There was so much self-judgment that went along. And so then that's why I wanted to avoid these triggers. Wasn't actually the uncomfort of leaning in to these situations. It was the discomfort of my own self-judgment. So growth, being in a growth mindset, is so much more easeful and playful and expansive when we can be kind to ourselves on the way. When we can speak our truth and celebrate ourselves while looking for the areas of, like, you know what, I could have done it slightly differently. Next time, I'm going to say X, Y, Z instead. But not from a place of judgment, a place of openness. So when we can take off the hats of the judgment and put on the hat of the neutral observer and just witness ourselves. When I can witness myself of, I'm not in full alignment with my value of growth. I am avoiding some triggers, but not from a place of judgment, just from a place of neutral observation. And from neutrality, we can see much more clearly. We can be honest with ourselves. We don't need to lie to ourselves. We can just be honest with ourselves. Where am I showing up in life? Celebrate where you are. Where am I not showing up in life? And not need to judge it. But when we can see something, shine the light on something, on a pattern, on a place where you're not in full alignment, then we can work with it. Then we can take one little step at a time to work with it. So being in a growth mindset, it's so much more easeful when we don't judge ourselves, when we can give ourselves the spaciousness to learn, to grow, to evolve, because we are always learning, growing, and evolving till the day we die. You're in a growth mindset, that's it, right? So allowing ourselves to be where we are, full acceptance, with full love, with full honor, looking at how far we've come, how much we've grown, how much we've expanded, and holding the vision of how much more we have to evolve into, to grow into, to expand into, but from the place of wholeness, from the place of full acceptance of where we are, knowing that there's always room for growth, knowing that there's always room for expansion, knowing that there's always room for our evolution. But can we do so from a place of love? Can we do so from a place of self-honor? Can we do so from a place of self-devotion, of devotion to our path, devotion to our purpose, devotion to the path that we are walking? And when you can sink into that, growth is fun. Growth is beautiful. We can see our opportunities for growth. We can see the triggers. And when we use the triggers as a game, oh, here's there's this part of me that doesn't feel enough, that was triggered by this person or this situation. Okay, let's work with it. This is life giving me an opportunity to grow, to expand, to evolve. And it's probably going to come up again. And it's another opportunity to grow, to expand, to evolve. So when we can reframe triggers, when we can reframe challenging situations, when we can reframe challenging relationships, that everything in life is an opportunity for my growth and expansion. Everything in life is an opportunity for me to heal, to grow, to evolve. Everything. Everything is here for our evolution. Everything is here to show us something about ourselves, to mirror a part of you that you don't accept, to mirror a part of you that you're ready to heal. And then it's not so personal. Then we can almost be excited for the triggers. We can be grateful for the challenging situations because it's something for me to learn, something for me to deepen into. And notice that, if there's frustration with, here's this pattern again, it was still hard for me to speak my truth. But notice how much quicker you spoke your truth this time than last time. I had a friendship situation, and the last friendship, I think it took me almost a year to speak certain truth to this friend. And this last friendship, it was maybe a month, That's a huge win. So I could judge myself that it took me a month or a couple of weeks or whatever it was, or I could celebrate myself for how much more embodied I am, for how much faster I could see the same pattern and catch it. So it's not that our patterns don't repeat and come back, but how much more quickly can you catch it? Can you come back to your center? Can you take the aligned action, the actions that are in congruence with your truth, that are in congruence with your values? Knowing that next time you'll be a little bit faster, there's room to grow, there's room to evolve. And can we also celebrate how much we're growing, how much we're evolving? And be in acceptance, be in love, be in honor of where you are right now on the journey.